Alright, you guys, welcome back to Sojourner's Quest. Today we're going to be reading Acts chapter 6. It's a very short chapter. Again, New Living Version. So I basically went into how the previous chapter before, which would be chapter 4, was about obeying God and not man. And in this one, in chapter 5, the previous chapter, it was again, obey God, not man. They were locked up, the disciples were locked up, they mysteriously disappeared, but then they got locked up again, and then this leader had spoken, and it was somewhat wise, he was saying, hey, if it's of God, it's gonna stay. So let's go ahead and get into it. Acts chapter 6. But with the believers multiplying rapidly, there were rumblings of discontent. Those who spoke only Greek complained that their widows were being discriminated against, and that they were not being given as much food in the daily distribution as the widows who spoke Hebrew. So the 12 called a meeting of all the believers. We should spend our time preaching, not administering a feeding program, they said. Now look around among yourselves, dear brothers, and select 7 men, wise and full of the Holy Spirit, who are well thought of by everyone, and we will put them in charge of this business. Then we can spend our time in prayer, preaching and teaching. This sounded reasonable to the whole assembly, and they elected the following: Stephen, a man unusually full of faith and the Holy Spirit; Philip, Prochorus, Nicanor, Timon, Parmenas, Nicholas of Antioch, a Gentile convert to the Jewish faith who had become a Christian. These 7 were presented to the apostles, who prayed for them and laid their hands on them in blessing. God's message was preached in ever-widening circles, and the number of disciples increased vastly in Jerusalem. And many of the Jewish priests were converted too. Stephen, the man so full of faith and the Holy Spirit's power, did spectacular miracles among the people. But one day some of the men from the Jewish cult of the freedmen started an argument with him, and they were soon joined by Jews from Cyrene, Alexandria in Egypt, and the Turkish provinces of Cilicia and Asia. But none of them were able to stand against Stephen's wisdom and spirit. So they brought in some men to lie about him, claiming they had heard Stephen curse Moses and even God. This accusation roused the crowds to fury against Stephen, and the Jewish leader arrested him and brought him before the council. The lying witnesses testified again that Stephen was constantly speaking against the temple and against the laws of Moses. Well, that's heartbreaking. They declared, we have heard him say that this fellow Jesus of Nazareth will destroy the temple and throw out all of Moses' laws. At this point, everyone in the council chamber saw Stephen's face become as radiant as an angel's. So I think we've all been at a point where things were twisted about us just enough, just a little bit, or there's a little bit of truth in there to what they said. Reading over this chapter again, that seemed to be what happened to Stephen, but at the end, again, it's brought up that his face became as radiant as an angel's, and that's God right there. So, all right, we'll tune in tomorrow. We're going to be going to Acts chapter 7, probably hearing a little bit more about Stephen. And I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank